Hi everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing really wonderful. I'm coming on today to talk to you about one of my favorite times of the year. I'm talking about Scorpio season, and specifically in the context of November 2021 comprehensive astrology. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're doing really well, and wow, how things are changing and how things are staying the same and how things are really crazy. It's just like how we predicted ourselves to be for this entire year of 2021 versus where we are now. It's very interesting to start summing things up and to start implementing some new things and quitting some other things, I think, okay? So as always with these comprehensive astrology videos, it's my favorite piece of pattern content to create. Thumbs up if you love the comprehensive monthly astrology videos. It's a really great, sweet midpoint for me as a content creator. Hit that subscribe button below as well, because we are about to move into eclipse season. Turn on those bell notifications to be alerted as we are doing live premieres every Friday. I will be making videos about the eclipses, about the moons, about Sagittarius season when that comes around, and there's just going to be a huge amount of content. I try to do the most this time of the year. October, November, December, and January is my favorite sort of sector of time for this channel, so make sure you're subscribed and join in on the fun of live premieres, and yes, as well, check the links below. I'm on Patreon, many other things like that. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into this video, everyone. As always, I will be talking about the intuitive messages of November 2021. And then in the second chapter of the video, I will talk about the astrology specifically. And I will look at the transits and the special events happening throughout the month. So yes, let's get this right underway. Intuitive messages of November 2021. Okay, so there is going to be a kind of there's a discomfort in November. I will be very clear with you guys. If you haven't allowed yourself to come to a peaceful breathing point, like if you haven't allotted yourself, given yourself the room to breathe, okay, this is kind of an uncomfortable time. But it's probably also the most giving time of the year at the same time. So through discomfort, through difficulty, through adversity, as always in Scorpio manner, right? 8th sign of the zodiac, 8th house energy, it re-establishes itself, or it sort of transforms, pain, adversity, difficulty. It transforms eventually into power always. A pain or a difficult experience is just a kind of push from the universe to re-empower you in another way. And that's a lot of what this November of 2021 is about. It's about knowing what was difficult, what was not done properly, what was uncomfortable, so that you can start to transform those experiences into new power for yourself. And when I say power, I mean energy, I mean hope, I mean clarity of mind, I mean not living in such an erratic mental space that I feel a lot of people have been in for this year. So that's going to be changing this November as well. The feeling that every single day one wakes up on a different side of the bed, wanting to do a different thing with their life, wanting to be perceived or project in this or that way, and it's different every day. It's fluctuating like wildfire. The previous month, October of 2021, I'll link that in the top right-hand corner and below. I made a video about it. It might be good to reflect on to get good momentum for November. This month, the October 2021 Libra season was all about that, right? Like weighing stuff out, deciding what you want to do, jumping back and forth between ideas. That has got to have a bit of a hard stop. And that's something that I kept hearing. Someone on Patreon commented something about hard stops, and that really resonated with me. And I've been seeing it everywhere. I've been seeing people saying, I've got to stop this. I've got to have a change in my life. And people have been confiding in me in my personal life, like, I just don't want to do what I'm doing anymore, but I can't stop, but I need a hard stop. So is that coming in November? I don't see it quite so much as a hard stop, but I think for some people it is necessary to halt certain things or to prepare to do that. as long as you have an understanding of how you want to move forward. Because in some way or another, I feel that just by virtue of stepping into November, being in that time period, there are going to be a lot of other things that by default experienced a hard stop in your life. So if you can kind of look around yourself and see like, okay, what isn't here anymore? What suddenly changed in October? And am I also maybe not realizing how much I have transformed or how much I have shifted? Okay, am I jamming through all of these conscious thoughts about what I don't need to do anymore, what I want to quit, what I don't want to be a part of anymore, what I want to, upend and change in my life, and totally negating what has done that naturally? I feel that a great way to make the energy of this time a little bit more bearable and a little bit more usable, actually, is to really hold space for what naturally has stopped or what naturally has left your experience. This is something that Scorpio season always emphasizes because, of course, Scorpio, as the 8th house, ruled by Pluto, ruled by Mars, it is a natural ruler over endings and death or loss. Not in the same way that Pisces is with the 12th house, which is the true end. Scorpio is about the end, the ending cycles that we experience within mortality to a degree. What do I mean by that? So as a breakup or a divorce is an ending that we go through, there's still a continuum with which we're experiencing that ending on that continues. Whereas the 12th house Pisces ending energy is really like a true ending cycle, or at least a little bit of a more holistic end. The types of endings that Scorpio 8th house energy rules over are catalyst endings. So endings that catalyze quick and prompt transformations, as that's the Mars side. That's the quick, the prompt, the repetitive push, whereas the Pluto side is the complete and absolute regenerative, transformative nature in which these events or these endings direct our lives. And it's not the easiest Scorpio season that I've seen. In fact, it's quite different. To me, the Scorpio energy has a very different face than it's been having for many years. As we've come through 2020, as we are globally experiencing a more turmoil-ridden experience, there's kind of an itch for change. There's an itch for shifting, though it is quite undetermined about how that actually works or what means by which that actually takes place. I feel that Scorpio, within that context, is a bit volatile, and it's a little bit unknown how the changes that many of us want to implement now actually fulfill themselves or actually come through on the other side. So a big intuitive message to bring that down into this, exact moment is watch out for flirting too much with the unknown at this time. I feel that because globally many things are so unknown that it's too overwhelming to completely upend one's life or push an unknown type of event or experience or risk or gamble, because we essentially need to offset that global unknown with a more microcosmic known or repetition or security. So there should be some type of repetitive security that does offer you a living or a sustaining throughout this Scorpio season to get the best result. And one of the flaws of this time is basically targeting that, what has basically given you everything at this point in time, targeting that to be pushed into this unknown global context. So there's kind of a void, there's kind of a vacuum, and I want you guys to be cautious during this time with what you discard, with what you even play with consciously as if it isn't what it is. This is kind of hard to explain. This has to do with the transiting Neptune. We'll get to that in the astrology section, because we're still in intuitive messages here. But what I want to it's really important to talk about at this time, to a degree, what you are participating in the 2020 year cycle that stayed with you from January of 2020 until December of 20, so the entire 2020 calendar cycle. This is something that I would really be cautious about stirring up trouble with, trying to like rebrand. What's complicated about it, and we're gonna devote just a little bit of this video here to complications, and then we're gonna go into some clarity instead. But what's complicated about this time is the Aquarius, strong, direct now Aquarius energy, Jupiter and Saturn, is saying, yes, do it, make the changes, totally reform and reinvent yourself, completely change your identity, and jump into this like new, wild experience. And at the same time, the momentum that we're on from all that retrograde Capricorn energy, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, it is the majority power, okay? Because Pluto is still there, right? Pluto is still in that Capricorn point. So it says that the tried and true and previous commitments, to me, as an astrologer, I interpret it as eventually this kind of like new wave, like brand new type of impetus, while of course we have important things to learn from these feelings and these motivations that surround this want for new things and to question the old. That, though, is not going, I think, to be victorious until the time that Pluto goes into Aquarius, which we're talking years down the line. So basically, you don't want to have a super taciturn, super impulsive shift right now. And Scorpio season is going to, like, especially for those of us who are emotionally struggling, for those of us who might need to actually be at the therapist's office instead of at the astrology channels on YouTube. For those people in that place, Scorpio season might push them, catalyze them to change too much or push through, jam through some type of change that is not going to be timeless, okay? And even though, here's the weird kind of brain situation that we're in right now, is that we might have turned our focus to that which actually is timeless in our lives, because of the guarantee of it, because we know what it is and we know how it moves forward. We don't like it. We doubt it. We think it needs to change because it's too clear. It's too fixed. And I think that the true key to transcending and feeling just happier in our lives right now is to allow that to be a nice thing, because Aquarius is also a fixed sign. So to me, we're Aquarius and Capricorn, because what we're talking about in these intuitive messages here is how the previous year cycle of 2020, okay, this is deep astrology stuff, so probably most of you watching this video are probably right there with me, but if you're kind of more new to astrology, bear with me. I'll really simplify it more in the astrology section. But this next little bit is for my deep astrology people who've been, going at it for a long time. So 2020 being such a Capricorn year, 2021 being such an Aquarius year, with Pluto remaining in Capricorn. Can't you guys see how it kind of makes the Capricorn energy the victor, right? Or it at least weighs the Capricorn energy more. It gives it more power with Pluto there. To me, where Capricorn and Aquarius connect, obviously they're chronologically near one another, but because of the semi-sextile angle, that means that they are extremely incompatible, yet they share something very deep in common. As commonalities, they are chronological, the 10th and the 11th sign. To me, the connecting point between Capricorn and Aquarius actually is commitment, repetition, and guarantee. Because Aquarius, as a fixed sign, likes that stuff a lot more than it would admit. Yes, Aquarius is the revolutionary, Aquarius is the rebel, Aquarius is the most apt sign in the zodiac to reinvent, reform, rebrand, However, the only way it can ever actually implement those changes is to be secure, stable, committed, and repetitive enough to be powerful enough to do that. So that, to me, is the connecting point between Aquarius and Capricorn, is they actually both deal a lot with Saturn, right? As Saturn traditionally ruled Aquarius before Uranus was discovered, Saturn rules Capricorn. So basically, Capricorn and Aquarius are two different faces of Saturn and two different faces of structure, commitment, loyalty, and bondage to a degree, right? What we're chained to, what we feel like we can't stop, the basically like how we have to pay the bills, and then, how we feel as if we can't stop what we're doing to do that, and we've got to get by, and all these choices that we feel that we make because of the status quo, or the choices and commitments we've made in our own lives. And the problem that I'm seeing right now, and this is going to come to a climax in Scorpio season, is that people aren't maybe happy enough with the previous commitments that they made. And what this comes down to, right, is like the relationship with oneself, isn't it? Can we be happy with ourselves and what we chose before? Or are we going to be so angry and mean to ourselves that we question every single thing that we've done, that we're not satisfied with the results we have now, that we push and push and push with our conscious minds to find answers to non-problems, and that we basically just go into this never-ending kind of mountain climbing mode? November of 2021, especially Scorpio season, part of it, is going to basically push how we've been pushing a little bit further. It's going to just be that extra little push into, it's going to be the next level. It's going to be an evolution, really. There's going to be a conflict, and it's only internal, okay? I'm not seeing this so much manifesting physically as I am seeing it internally. So conflict is a part of November if you won't allow a natural evolution into trust. So interestingly, and this just kind of came into my mind right this second, it's almost a good time to be a little bit fatalist, okay? Just to sanify ourselves, just to get by. So why am I thinking fatalism? Let's resort to Wikipedia here. Fatalist. A fatalist is someone who feels that no matter what he or she does, the outcome will be the same because it's predetermined. So I'm not pushing fatalism. I'm not saying that this is a philosophy that one should implement at all times. But if you're particularly worried, or if you're particularly concerned, I mean, it's Scorpio season, why not just get a little bit fatalist about things and understand that the previous momentums have set a series of events that we can either freak ourselves out about, or that we can understand as a part of our experience and something to basically be overcome now. So maybe in that way, fatalism is not the right component, because fatalism to me is not really something that kind of cues up any determination to overcome anything, because it's already accepted predetermination. So in that way, it's not correct, but I'm just kind of thinking in the nihilistic way that Scorpio season can think, because there's going to be some astrology transits in Scorpio season that will really push people to a certain fear regimen if they can't accept their lack of control. Scorpio season every year is a test of control. It's a test of, are you ready to move on? Are you ready to get better from that previous trauma? Are you ready to heal this? Are you ready to acknowledge your lack of control over another person, or over another experience that is not your own? If these things can fall well into order, it's very empowering, right? Scorpio season is a transformation. It's it's like the number 8, it's infinite. There's an infinity energy about the energy of Scorpio, which promises what you've put in it. It promises the reaping of what you sowed, right? So that might be another good thing to think about during this Scorpio season, especially if you're someone who's worried about the current chain of events. Try to understand it as a greater karmic rebalancing, and try to let it be a nice and clear idea that you're going to start getting things better in the future. So a little bit more on intuitive messages. I still feel that I have a few things to talk about. I've talked about some of the difficulties of Scorpio season. Basically, and to sum that up, that's basically going to be of how we think, of mindsets, right? Of choosing to live a life that only has comfort via control, choosing to live a life that only has comfort via huge amounts of money coming into your life. Any of these types of things are going to get super tested, okay? And we'll talk more about that in the astrology section. Something that I want to say that's really important for November, probably is the final intuitive message, is that there is a sort of preliminary last call. Okay, so it's not really the last call. We're going to have all the way until Pisces season to figure out what we want our life to consist of at a very majority level, like what I spend most of my time on, what I am striving to do. All of that stuff is very relevant this month, but it's tested, okay? It's not just like a pipe dream. It's not just like someday I'm going to be this and it feels so good. It's more like, oh my God, in order to do this, I have to really choose where I want my time to go. I have to be very careful with relationships. I have to be very careful. It's like kind of like careful what you wish for in a way. It's kind of like, okay, so this is what you want. Well, here's a synchronistic experience that shows you what that's like. Are you ready for that? Or could you just embrace it and do it now? And yes, there is definitely a testing, like, can we follow through on what we signed up for? That's a huge part of this Scorpio season, and the momentum should already be quite clear on that. And it's basically that preliminary last call to throw a few things off as well. So discarding, I'm seeing that as a key word. Scorpio does rule release, right? So what do you need to get rid of? What do you need to release? What habits do you not like in your life? And what do you just want to no longer be an energy investment? That can very easily be walked away from this time of the year every year. Because it's really important to understand, you guys, very, very important to understand that Sagittarius season, okay, just it's going to be a little snippet, and this will segue us into the astrology portion because my December video will be all about Sagittarius season specifically. That's going to really fix some things up, and that's going to really, for some of us, give us what we've wanted, give us the perfect little semblance of the reality that we dreamt of for a long time. And because of that, there can be a loss of attention on what needed to be fixed, and you can basically bring with you a certain type of stagnation that is no longer visible. So the beauty of this Scorpio season, November 2021, is to fix that stuff now, to fix that stagnation that's, I don't know, like the type of stagnation that's growing mold, you know. That should be faced now because Sagittarius season is going to provide so many distractions and so many new hopes and dreams and clarity. Yes, that we have to devote so much of our conscious energy to it that it's just really worrisome to me that walking into Sagittarius season this year, into December especially, with a lot of remaining stagnation, because that could... It's kind of hard to explain, but I don't know, say that you loaded a bunch of dishes into your dishwasher that had not been cleaned, and you closed the dishwasher and you went on vacation for 6 months. And you came back to your house forgetting that you didn't like activate your dishwasher, and you look in there and that's really overwhelming, you know? And that's maybe a mild example, because at least that's controlled. At least that's a small space. At least I suppose that can be quite easily cleaned. But that's what I feel. I feel a lot of people after this Scorpio season could have a tendency to just close that door and let that kind of permeate and be out of sight, out of mind, and then have to wonder upon it in the future. So clean some stuff out now. What a beautiful month for... a better diet. What a beautiful month to clean your house, to just get healthier and get unstagnant, okay? You are not nearly as tied to things as you think that you are, and whoever needed to hear that, hit that like button. I don't know, leave me a comment. But I just feel that a lot of you need to hear that you are not as chained to things as you think you are. That's a psychological construct. However, I don't want you guys going and like upending your lives or creating some type of fear or scarcity or lack because of a chance. But it's really important to start developing, new brands, not new identities. It's to think of developing a new identity is too psychotic. I'm kidding. But it's kind of like that in the meat and potatoes of what it is, but it should be coming from a love place, not from a like projection place, if that makes sense. But as you do that work, as you start constructing your life, allow some of these other things to just be disposed of. Allow some of these other aspects to slip away, because I feel that a lot of people's, I don't know, incomes, businesses, commitments, yes, are exerting too much power over the people who actually created them. And I don't feel that they need to just be like discarded, but either there needs to be a re-empowering of you as the person doing the job, doing the work, or you need to start creating some new stuff, basically in layman's terms. But just try to really step out of any type of bondage mentality, like I can't not do this. I am stuck with this. I can never leave, because that is something that Scorpio season or Scorpio energy in and of itself always teaches us is only a construct. Okay, it's not so much a reality, though I suppose for some people it is. But there's a great window of opportunity right here and right now to be creative and to think about like wildest dreams and all that kind of stuff, especially towards the end of the month after the eclipses and stuff. It's going to really clear out some blockages. But I really want to challenge everyone here to maybe during the rest of this video, if you've got like a pen and paper, or I don't know, maybe your note-taking app on your phone or whatever, write down a few things that you don't want to come with you past November of 2021, whether this is a mindset, whether this is a type of food or bad habit or addiction or anything like that, anything that's also stagnant, okay? And that if maybe the dishwasher analogy, allegory, whatever we want to call it, if that made you think of any certain thing in your life and it just evoked like, whoa, yeah, this relationship or this whatever in my life is to me what I think of when Sky is talking about that gross dishwasher allegory. If you have that, write it down and allow yourself the clarity of mind throughout this month to decide how you want to move forward with that and what you want to hold space for. So, and just it's almost like it was important just to record it as such, even if you don't make the actual change, or even if you don't move away from it, or even if it still continues to be the commitment for you. Maybe it will happen in a less stagnant way because you thought about it this way, or you will basically heal whatever is problematic about it, at least. So it's good to know and get stuff into the physical world instead of just letting it permeate in the mind, trust me. Anyway, let's move on to the astrology portion, and I'm hoping for some great positive insights coming on here. I'm going to throw the first chart up on the screen. Let me just write down the little time marker so I can have an easier time editing. Okay, so November 1st. Okay, so first thing I notice is that we're starting out the month a lot easier than we ended October. This is definitely the easiest energy that I've seen probably since around April of 2021. So things are getting easier, things are loosening, things are becoming less tense, less volatile. I love to see Venus in Sagittarius there, away from the South Node, far away from it. And yes, still on that midpoint of, not on the midpoint, sorry, it's actually past Jupiter, but it still, to me, kind of connects well with those two planets by sextile. There's going to be some kind of mitigation, I think, in the month of November, just because of that, as Venus in Sagittarius is a really wonderful transit to be having amidst all of this. I'm just looking at this chart. So, yes, we do have a Venus-Neptune square that we are starting the month out with as well, or coming from, which says to me that there could be a creative conflict or kind of like the energy of writer's block for some people, or an overcoming of that as well. Neptune and Chiron and Uranus are the only retrograde planets that we're entering into November with, which is already just such a load off, and it's such a relaxation compared to where we were at. But it does kind of denote a kind of psychological, kind of almost cinematic quality to life with the Venus-Neptune square, Chiron, Uranus being active in the way that they are. Also, there are going to be some T-square energy from the Saturn-Uranus square being reactivated in November to a slight degree, and then obviously with these Scorpio planets coming through. I may have to make a specific video about that, but what I can tell you about that here in this comprehensive video is that, yes, anything that has been a tried and true aspect of your life, anything that is status quo, anything that is a well-forged aspect of you has questions during this time, okay? So if you've been working at the same job for a long time, if you've owned the same house for a really long time, whatever has become such a solid part of your life experience, that to me is what has been challenged by the Saturn-Uranus square, right? Because it has Saturn, which is the planet of structure, status quo, and repetition, squaring difficult angle. Uranus, which is the planet of innovation and changes and sudden shifts. And we were just talking earlier in the video about Capricorn and Aquarius, right? So with the Scorpio energy coming in on the other side of this, creating a T-square, it is going to be a catalyst. So you could see a big change in finance for some people, or a big change in worth, or even emotional worth as well, with Scorpio sort of being the linchpin of this energy. I think that a lot of us might start emotionally valuing certain things in our lives very differently this month. Definitely with Mars coming through Scorpio, it might be a huge relief to be single right now. It might be a huge relief to not have a stressful job, or to not have basically a commitment, right, in your life, whether that's relationship, whether that's monetary. It just might be the most relieving thing in the world to have no questions, or to have acceptance of the space that's been created, or to have peace and comfort, as there's little huge changes we want to make for the rest of this year, especially after Scorpio season. But even now, like, even though it's very transformative, even though, and this is contradictory, but bear with me, even though Scorpio season is like the transformative sign of the zodiac, you never really want to work with Scorpio energy in the most direct way, in my opinion. Like, it can be kind of a dangerous energy, right? If it's too deliberately focused, because it is so controlling and it's so powerful, that it can cause problems, of course. But what I'm trying to get at here is you want to maybe just have breathing room. That's what I keep coming back to with the energy of November. Anything in anyone's life with this T-square could be an area of absolute controversy, or an area of absolute, questioning. And that's a global dynamic. That's not an individual problem. Now, of course, it can fluctuate. Like, if we have relationships that we needed to end ages ago, if we had, changes in career that we needed to implement ages ago, that's really harsh right now. And it will probably kind of jam us into the place that we need to be to follow through on those truths. However, I want to really stress this. So everyone here, let's do a little exercise. Thinking about these different sectors of our lives, from the house that we live in, to the bills that we pay, to the relationships that we have, family, romantic, acquaintance, any type of relationship. Can you kind of see how any one of these sectors in every single way could be completely problematic within a matter of seconds? It's a global thing right now. And if you've been kind of worrying about, like, oh my God, I don't trust my career, I don't trust my anything, that has a relevance to it astrologically right now with the Saturn-Uranus square, specifically in this time. And I really think that there's going to be healing there if you want it in November, or the catalyst experience that spurs that. So we can kind of, especially if you're getting this video early in October, so hit that subscribe button so you don't forget, or you don't miss these notifications. we can kind of do this the easy way or the hard way. We could maybe make some changes at the end of October. Some things that we just know are not good for us, some habits or tendencies or expenses that we know are just not good for our futures, okay? It could really be, a lot of headway could be made at the end of October, and we could spare ourselves a lot of drama in November through that. Though where the balance is, and that's still evocative of Saturn-Uranus square, because where is the line? Where do we draw the line between like, okay, I've changed this in my life, I've done this different thing, I've replaced this, I've built this up and pushed this down, and it's so Saturn-Uranus square, and it's almost like no one can do it perfectly. So the perfectionist has a very hard time during this period. The type A personality, the negotiating type, the frugal type, the spendthrift, the workaholic, the passive-aggressive person, all of these sort of storefronts of human personality traits are very challenged right now. So what's the remedy to that? Basically, don't be too identitarian in general, okay? Because I think that that's the root of all of these problems. Jupiter and Saturn have gone direct. Basically, the identity things are going to start naturally shifting into place. We don't have to focus it that hard. Some people do, but it's never going to be perfect if you're trying, okay? So anything that you're trying to do in your life, it's never going to be perfect, okay? It's human nature, right? It's humanity. It doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done, but we can't expect perfection. And again, that's why I'm saying type A perfectionist people really struggle, because it's like nothing that's done right now is perfect, okay? Nothing. So basically, we learn a lot of lessons about expectations and about perfectionism and about the trials that we put ourselves through by being that way. So a departure from being a perfectionist could be the best thing about this month. A departure from thinking you can move linearly into some type of goal or some type of X marking the spot, as if you're like looking at a map and you're like, here's where I'm going to go, and that's going to be exactly where it is, and it's going to be exactly like this, and I'm going to invest this way, and I'm going to get this result, and then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do this with that result, and that's going to get me exactly in this place. That's not good. Okay, that's going to get you into a very different place. So, there's going to be times where we can be a little bit more like that. Like, I want this and I'm going to do this to get that. Rarely does it ever work that way. But what I'm trying to get at here is once we get past this phase of Saturn-Uranus squares, which is going to be into 2022, right? We can be a little bit more goal-oriented or, push things so hard. But what I want to say is that what might just be way better here, finishing up 2021, is to just keep on keeping on, to make it as easy as possible. I mean, I think a lot of us have worked way too hard, honestly, over this big retrograde period. And I think that a lot of us have a relaxation to pursue and a healthening of the body to pursue as well, because if we don't have health, we ain't got nothing. And the more of the underlying thing to me with Saturn-Uranus square, especially with Scorpio, like this can be a kind of health determining period of time, whether it's health of the mind, health of the body, even health of the soul. Like I'm sensing some people just not laying off of themselves, like being such control freaks that they are basically shown by the universe how out of control of their own control freak tendencies that they are. Control freak, Saturn, Uranus, Sun, Mars in Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. Control freak. It's not, we've got to maybe have a coming to God and a de-egoing for some people, or a humbling, basically. It's not that ego's always bad, but coming down from being overly thoughtful or thinking way too far ahead in the future would be very advisable at this time. And having like a first person experience of your own life, if you're already there, if you're already grounded, if you're already moving in that way, That's great. You'll do easier in November. But anyone who, I've been going through this as well, where I think too much about the future, or I think too much about how I'm moving in a way that connects to the future. And I feel like it's part of this year cycle to be there. It's part of this year cycle to do some long-term work. But I also am seeing and being called to say for November of 2021 that momentums are pretty set at this point in time. And there are some like great, incredible ideas. Okay. And you might have ideas of a lifetime in November of 2021, and get those down, get those on paper. And try to make it more of a project-oriented ideascape. Do you know what I mean? So try to pull out of this mercurial, squirrely place where it's like one day I think this, one day I think this, one day I think that. And basically the result of that is a messy type of mental erraticism. Even if it's like 10 different ideas, even if it's, you'd be surprised, and that's going to show us how healthy we are, isn't it? Like how much we're putting our brains through every day and trying to like figure and formulate, and meanwhile, like the food that we're putting into our body's not good, and stuff like that's going to become really apparent by getting some stuff down on paper. So yes, great month for journaling, great month for getting better in that, getting better through a more material understanding of what you're going through instead of keeping it so condensed to the mind. And why is that indicated? Yes, of course, we have Mercury going direct and going through Sagittarius. So we've got some mind healing to do. Mercury's debilitated in Sagittarius. It passes the South Node by the end of the month, and I'll put up the end of the month chart on the screen now as well. Okay. Yes, so Mercury moves up. We have a little bit of a Sag stellium, of course. South Node, Sun and Mercury only, and Venus by the end of the month has moved up near Pluto and Capricorn. So healing of the mercurial aspect of human mentality is a big part of the end of November, to the degree that we have to almost let go of these previous lifelines, or these previous preconceived, predetermined, predestined even ideas have to shift away. And the fatalism that we might have been identifying as a positive way to let go of our fear in the beginning of the month goes right out at the end of the month, and we have to get more hopeful. Okay? So into the month of November, interestingly, I'm seeing a lot of hope there. I'm seeing a lot of tenacity. I'm seeing a lot of resolve. I'm seeing visions, that people are having visions of who they really are. Like really coming into contact with like, wow, look at what I've done. Look at what I've created. Look what I am in the process of creating. So try not to dumb down your path, basically. What do I mean by this? You might think, oh, I'm having pipe dreams. I can never be that incredible musician. I can never be, that. And I need to just come down, and I need to humbly do what I'm doing now and just let it keep creating a path. That might really be a way to feel easier at this time, but it's like we have to kind of have the best of both worlds with that, and we have to have both of those things. So we have to be able to realize these new dreams, realize these new visions, realize these new innovative paths that are coming in. And at the same time, we've got to have the peace, the ease, the kindness of the previous security to generate that next path. So what can facilitate us having both of those things at once without getting upset that we're not there yet, without being frustrated that we have to keep committing to something that's not 100% for us anymore? I think that it's going to come down to health of the brain. And when I say health of the brain, I mean the level of chemical disruption that we are facing right now is absurd, okay? And this is maybe a different video for a different day, but why not put it into the Scorpio season comprehensive astrology video? Because Scorpio does rule over chemicals of the body, hormones, chemicals, lymph system, endocrine system, all of that stuff is ruled by Scorpio. reproductive system, and parts of the digestive system as well. Um, so as I'm looking at these transits, what I'm really feeling by the end of the month, that is like the moral of this story of this time, is that there's like a lot of disruptors, or a lot of kind of external elements or environmental elements that are disrupting a certain wavelength, or preventing a certain clarity of mind. And I think that the main remedy to that is going to be, with Neptune still retrograde, with Chiron still retrograde, and obviously they'll be going direct in December and January. There is something inhibiting the nervous system, or the clarity of thought that we can have. And I don't think that this isn't some kind of conspiracy. This has more to do with impulses, and also with maybe social media, or the way that we are constantly having like dopamine surges, by the way that just in like the last 10 or 15 years that we've started to change up our daily habits. And it's almost like the human brain has not quite caught up, and it's kind of actually maybe creating unwellness in a lot of people, to have so many quick little like pings and notifications and all kinds of stuff. And basically the way that we maybe plan our lives, or the way that we make larger decisions, have become a mirror to that, where it's very impulsive and very quick and very scattered, okay, from many different sources and many different motivations, all scattered and creating quick little mercurial decisions, and which obviously does create a larger overall theme. What I think the remedy for this is going to be for a lot of people is, yes, being in nature to some degree. It's also going to be a very difficult cold winter, okay, if you're in the northern hemisphere. So keep in nature as much as you can in November before it gets super cold. Also, less time with technology, okay, less time with caffeine, less time with anything that alters your body chemistry in unnecessary ways. Okay, so caffeine, devices, the type of media that one consumes, all being very potentially detracting to an overall sense of well-being right now. And of course, speaking about astrology in November, I have to talk about, this is the first full month that we have Jupiter and Saturn direct in Aquarius, and only for a little bit longer will we be having both of those planets in Aquarius. Jupiter will move really quickly to Pisces, okay, at which point in time I will be making an updated Jupiter and Pisces video. I already have one, which I'll link below in the top right hand corner. I already have one, but it will be needing an update. But as both of these planets are still in Aquarius right now, Jupiter being in the last bit of Aquarius, we need to really understand what we enjoy about what we do. We need to understand also why we are thinking so much about alternatives. Does it mean that we don't enjoy what we're doing? Or is it a matter of mercurial mindset, right? Like just jumping around and not really being able to focus in on one thing. And why is that the case? This astrological combination being in effect in November does say to me that there's big progress being made in long-term momentum. There's big progress being made in how we plan, how we also base a lot of our life, like what is the center point, and what do we really want? Like, based on the decisions, based on the outcomes that you're seeing now, like maybe where you're living right now, or any changes that you've made, especially recently, what has it revealed to you that you actually want out of life? That's a really great breakthrough for a lot of people. Like, you just moved to the city and you just rented a super expensive apartment to do something incredible. And maybe just with that experience, you're like, okay, now I see that I just want like a nice sturdy house in the country. And that's like a great like window of beauty for you to plan around, okay? Maybe you see that, wow, I'm now living so far beneath my means that I've been able to like save up, and now I can really invest in something better for myself. That could also be with this Jupiter Saturn. There's something about the next 20 years, right? Throughout this entire year of 2021 that has been right front and center in the conscious mind. So this is the culmination. This is the last little bit of that. Here it's direct. Try to create space and create time for meditating and thinking about what you want to do for a long time. Like, what do you love? What do you enjoy? It's really scary for a lot of people to lose or forfeit that myopic edge. Like, just for this little bit of time, I'm going to like drive Uber to just get by. Like, that's not what this is about. Okay. Try to not get distracted by short-term gains. Okay. Please. Concern yourself more with longevity and long-term planning to what degree you can, except for when it gets in that mercurial squirrely place where you're like, oh, I just can't focus on anything because I'm so out of a grounded space. How can we maybe evolve? As a final little note for this video, actually, I think it's a great little food for thought to leave the video on. How can we evolve our long-term planning into something that's not future tripping, but is a responsible, grounded, sober, and clear means to creating not just the life that we want, because that's so distant, that's so, it's not seemingly realizable if we just want it, but we don't have it, but really creating a life that is attainable, doable, and guaranteed based on what we've already done, and that resonates with our long term. Okay, that's really what this November is about. And yes, catalyst changes that actually place that into activation, transformations, releases, relinquishing, that facilitates these grander expansions. Okay, so you might very well have to spend less time doing certain things. You might very well not be able to, at least starting in 2022, do as much as you did in 2021. And there might have to be like more quality-based approaches instead of quantity-based approaches. Okay. And two more things that I want to cover just really briefly here is nodes getting closer to the cusp and eclipses, okay? These will have their own videos, but I will touch on them very briefly. So not until January do we have the nodes actually on the cusp of Scorpio and Taurus and Sag and Gemini, but they're getting closer, and it's good to know that only 2 more months will we, one, have Jupiter in Aquarius. It won't even quite be 2 months, actually, and the nodes in their current sign. So these are always big paradigm shifts, right? Like whatever signs the nodes occupy has a huge impact on collective themes. And throughout the entire duration, past year or so of having them in Gemini and Sag, that has been so philosophical, right? And so dream oriented, so communicative, of like higher purpose, and it hasn't really been directly about the grounded present moment. It's been about what's the higher octave of this experience and thinking about that. We're getting closer and closer to needing to be more materially there, okay? And by February of 2022, once these nodes really get there, there has to be a material connection to what is really wanted instead of just a getting by, or instead of just a kind of like, covering a bottom line and being out of purpose, but covering a bottom line. We've got to really start making movements, I think, here in November towards that. And it doesn't have to be implemented now, but it's good to start that planning phase because it's pretty chaotic to do that really fast in January and February. So start that preparing for winter, preparing for a shift, preparing for stepping into purpose, because the nodes in Scorpio and Taurus are going to be much less fake, much less porky, much less filler, much less fiat, much less non-substantive, right? Once nodes move to Scorpio and Taurus in January and really hit in February, there's going to have to be a major shedding of the fake, non-substantive qualities. And there's going to be a big move towards necessity and towards what's actually right for us and not just a filler experience. The negative side to nodal axis in Gemini and Sagittarius is filler experiences that fill space as we think about what we actually want. And that becomes very unkind right now okay, even as it's been so long. And there needs to soon be an implementation. But that is what these eclipses are basically going to do. That they're going to start in November 19th, okay? And I'm going to make a specific video, but I want to give you guys some forewarning before we actually get there. Yes, eclipse season is starting up, and we're going to have them in November. We're going to also have them in December, so they will be in both of those comprehensive astrology videos. But yes, on the 19th, 18th, or 19th, depending on your time zone, there's going to be a partial lunar eclipse, which will set the path for a total solar eclipse on December 4th. So, yeah, once we get towards the end of Scorpio season and move into Sag season, there have got to be substantive shifts, substantive changes that at least start the process. And I've been talking about this for a while on this channel, but at least start the process of getting us where we actually want to be instead of in these like filler situations. Filler situations, it might be a good topic for a video. I'm going to jot it down. But how I can brief you just from the perspective of maybe preparing for eclipses, because we're not there yet and there will be a specific video, but I'll spend 2 or 3 minutes here telling you about preparation. By the eclipses, so by the 15th of November, leading up to the partial lunar eclipse, emotionally, we should be quite prepared for changes and for something to come in and for something to go out. And then as that happens on like the 18th and 19th of November, we need to be a lot more sober and a lot more down to earth with what we actually want to do, and less off on Jupiter or off on Pluto, wherever it is, and totally detached from our current experience. We've got some evolving to do, basically. And then the total solar eclipse on December 4th will set sail for a lot of people onto much better territories, yes, but it's not really easy if we're really attached to filler situations or filler time spending. Those shows that you watch that you don't actually like, but that fill space. These things are going to come under intense scrutiny over this eclipse season, because they are like the one sort of aspect of many of our lives that are actually preventing the substantive experience from being here. Like, it's only in the mind, it's not in the physical yet. And these eclipses will move us and catalyze us to getting them in the experience. So it's really interesting, and it's incredible to be alive right now, because we have so many opportunities to realize our dreams and to self-actualize. Okay, self-actualization, right? In Scorpio and Sagittarius season, especially with eclipses, with this year cycle, with Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, with the nodes on the cusp of Saturn, of Scorpio and Taurus. We know what we're here for at this point in time. Like, we have these like deep callings, but it's scary for some people to be so aware of that and to be so conscious of it. And it leads some of us to maybe create a lot of filler in our lives to kind of, on one hand, diversify in case we fail. There's a big fear of failure with these transits, I've got to say, because that is such a sensitive and complex system that most of us are working with, that we fear errors, or we fear a slight human error could destroy the entirety of many of the realities that a lot of us have created. And it's like this sort of self-actualizing push is calling on many of us to walk that tightrope, or to step up to the plate. It seems that some of us are saying yes and some of us are saying no to that, and there's not a right or wrong answer there. But I just want to kind of let some of you know that it's especially if you have like placements on either in the Aquarius, like so around, the area of 24 or 8 degrees of Aquarius, and also around the Scorpio Sagittarius cusp, okay, with the nodes doing what they're doing. There's going to be kind of from a very deep foundational place, like pull or push. And to me, it feels a little bit fatalist in nature, but it's not, that concept does not cover it. So it's not there. But the sort of theme of predestination, or at least the feeling that it's like that, is a part of this pull. And I think that many people have to not be fooled by that, but at the same time, they've got to know the reason that they're living, okay, like what they're living for, and also understanding their own mortality from the standpoint, like, do you want to live your life in a filler way? Or do you want to step up to your purpose? It seems, I suppose in the way that I've presented that, it seems like the answer would be obvious, but it's really not, because in a way, some of these filler situations are very safe, okay? So by having that like nice work from home job that like gets you by and doesn't really feel like your purpose, but keeps you sustained, even though you might consider that to be a filler experience, it kind of is a safeguard. Whereas, yes, to step out on this limb and to jump up to this big purpose-oriented thing is going to be a little bit like unpredictable. But I think that we need to know of it, and I think that we also have to follow it to some degree. And we have to really start getting these projects on paper or actually activating them, okay, in November. In November. I'm not, we've been talking a lot about February 2022, and that's when things I think really do start to get actually created and manifested. But that doesn't happen overnight, okay? That's really manic to try to do those things overnight. So that's why November is activating us like this, because it's getting us into the planning phase for that. And this is not about manic planning. This is not about overreaching either, okay? This is about like really self-actualizing ourselves in sustainable long-term ways, responsible, authentic, organic, integrity-based ways. Understanding the power behind it, understanding our energy sources, understanding our sources of income, energy, health, relationship happiness as well. What is a source of relationship peace in your life? Please do not have conflict with your families or with your loved ones right now. That is so preventative in accessing this energy. Basically, so I'm feeling that, to give you guys just a very fast summary of November, end of October, you've got to kind of do some house cleaning and sure, drink all the caffeine that you want, like push through, get some stuff out of the way. And by the beginning of November, you really need to be stepping in a more mature way. Okay, because some of us have got to grow up a little bit here. I'm getting chills, more chills than I actually got in the entire video. Some of us have to grow up a little bit just energetically. I'm not so much talking about like roles of adults or like younger or older people in life. It's not along those lines. It's more of like, stop having this mercurial existential crisis, okay? And just grow up and understand what you need to do now and step into that role and step into that life and step into the process of it at least. Because the Saturn-Uranus square is not going to make anything feel perfect right now. Even if you totally change your life and do everything that you think is right now, it's not going to feel right, okay? Even if you just totally say the same, it's not going to feel right. But something has to be right. So that's what I'm saying, like, just trust the tried and true, trust the organic, trust the integrity-based stuff. I don't think that it can betray you, but try to start cutting out some of the filler. Try to start cutting out some of the stuff you don't need to eat out of your diet in Scorpio season. Try to start donating some of the clothes you never wear anymore. Try to optimize, okay? And try to grow up a little bit with the mental conflict, because it's not a matter of indecision anymore. It's not a matter of not knowing the right answer. It's a matter of being in a constant phase of deliberation to kind of try to emotionally prove to yourself that you're caring about your path. And that level of attentiveness is going to start being a downfall for some people, and it's going to start preventing progress past November, okay? So we got to really get to a decision about how we're moving forward here. in any period, in any like time, okay, to some degrees there's a 20-year cycle, but we can't, no one can control where they're going to be 20 years from now. The key with these transits, with the last little dose of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, is that we kind of set that momentum in a wide way. We kind of get to know it. We kind of get downloads or glimpses of like what we could emerge as. But that's really intoxicating also, okay? Especially with the way that Neptune and Chiron are transiting. There's an intoxication about like, wow, I could be like on top of the world. I could like do this crazy thing. And I'm sorry, I've just heard coyotes howling in the background. I'm going to leave that in the video. I'm not going to edit it out because I think it's a nice little fun thing. You never know what you'll hear in one of Sky's videos in the background. Is always, whether it's a rainstorm or, I don't know, cars or coyotes howling at the moon. But that's kind of, it makes sense for Scorpio season, right? Like we got to stop howling at the moon and we got to step into action. And don't let yourself get intoxicated by these glimpses. Get them down on paper. Write about your dreams. Maybe even challenge yourself to do a journal entry of like 50 things I would like to do. 50 different careers I'd like to have. I don't know. 10. What I would like my relationship to look like. How, like, what do you want? Like, I think we have to know what we want. And I also think we have to know what we have. And I think that we have to know what is filler. And by knowing those things, we can actually make a decision about how to move forward. And amongst all of this, we've got to have a healthier mind with less detractors, less chemical agents, less conflict creators like that, right? And by mixing all of this together like a potion, you're going to alchemically come out of November with what you needed. And I think that that's the most important thing for this month, is to basically have an alchemical evolution by all of those pre-mentioned things that I said, okay? And that's basically going to cover it. I mean, mix those things together and you almost can't fail. But there do really have to be some outcomes coming through after November, like knowing what you don't need, knowing what you do need, and starting to have results because of that. So we're probably going to be talking a lot more about health of the body in the Sag season video, because I didn't get to touch on that too much in Scorpio season, but it's a big part of it. Okay, without health of the body, without health of the mind, this would be a very torrential period of time. So food for thought. Try to not lose sleep. And of course, as always, the ending cycles that Scorpio season always brings in. So if you lose something, if something stops, if you have to cut back, if you have to cut expenses, if you have to stop eating a certain type of food, it will feel good. Okay, try to not stress yourself out about it. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video. It was a really, really long video this time. But who doesn't love to talk a lot about Scorpio season? Thank you all so much for being here. I am on Patreon. Let me invite you over to my Patreon page. I do weekly bonus forecasts every week over there. Be sure to come check it out. The November general readings are going to be going up very soon, so check the link below to get those. And yes, hit that subscribe button below if you're new. Hit the like button to get this video out there, and comment below and let me know what your thoughts were about the video, or any experiences you might be having, any ideas you might also have about thriving more during this time, because it's a mysterious time to me. It's very mysterious in a lot of ways, but let's thrive, let's do well, and check the description box below. Lots of helpful links. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great November. Bye.